I do want to talk about a movie I went and saw.
Okay, great.
I went to The Flash. The Flash film.
Oh, now, from what I've heard from other people, it is
Mm.
not so flash. But what did you think about the movie?
Well, I have traditionally railed against like
Mm,
nostalgia pandering
mm,
in movies and fan service. We won't
uh,
go over the Top Gun fiasco. Enough's been said about that. But I definitely fell victim to the marketing of this because it was Michael Keaton, and you know
yes,
how much I love Michael
mate.
Keaton.
You love Michael Keaton, but we both love Michael Keaton Batman. Like, if
Yeah,
your
that's our
selling
era.
point is Michael Keaton's coming back to do Batman, and then of course that was meant to be the Batwoman or Batgirl or whatever, the one they cancelled.
The tax write-off, you mean? Literally a tax write-off. How
Bat
many people
tax.
worked on that tax write-off? Like insane when you think about it.
So obviously that was meant to be part of where we were going to get to see Michael Keaton do Batman. Then there was the idea that he would pop up in these Flash movies, and then there might be the idea that we might even get to see a Michael Keaton Batman. Batman in the future movie,
Or
which
Batman Beyond or something
or
like that.
something
Yeah.
like that, or something in the vein of that at the very least, which for us, for people of our generation, is an exciting idea. I love the
Mm.
idea of going back to like an old Batman and Michael Keaton being that old Batman. So I'm like you. That alone was enough for me to look over the fact that the lead actor in the movie has probably committed a whole bunch of crimes.
Yeah. I mean, there was an interesting article I read about it, like 15 reasons why the Flash bombed.
Mm-hmm.
And like key to it is the fact that, yeah, you have this very problematic lead star. But then the guy they brought in to draw the attention away from the problematic lead star, who they built all the marketing around, then was contractually obliged to be shooting another film at the same time and couldn't do any of the
Oh.
press. And so it's like they had no one going out to promote the film. Like no one, like you look at how hard The Rock worked to just get like middling results for Black Adam. So when you don't have either stars doing press for this film, but
I
it
mean, at
was
the very least, they could have sent Ezra out to kidnap audiences and make them watch the film,
berate them.
allegedly.
So I'd actually set it aside. I was in Sydney and I'd been working and I just wrapped work and I was like, you know what? I'm going to treat myself with a little bit of gold class action because there's no gold class cinemas up where I live. So I went to and booked a ticket and even pre-ordered all the food I was going to eat, had a little bit of medicine, you know, got to the cinema nice and early, like midweek. So there's no one around. It's like having a private screening. It is a mess. Like it is such a mess. But I was not really bored at any point because it feels like in the same way we talk about, you know, Black Adam and that the hierarchy of power is changing, being designed by committee. This feels like a film that was like, holy shit. Like let's just try something. Let's whack this in there, whack that in there. And it's not that it's not entertaining. It's just bizarre. Like from the opening sequences to the introduction of not only, are you going to see it? Do you want me to do spoilers and non-spoilers?
You don't need to do. I mean, there might be some people listening who, at some stage, are going to say, "I am going to see it," but I could probably tell you beat by beat what happens from start to finish in this movie from just listening to other podcasts and reading,
Okay.
shit about it. So, like, my point being that I don't think you're going to spoil anything. Also, this storyline, it's Flashpoint, right? It was already done on the TV show. Like, pretty much this same story they covered on like season 2 of the CW TV show. So, like, I'm familiar with the storyline. And at the time, Flashpoint has always been quite an exciting story because for people who don't follow comic books, it's a really good multiverse storyline. But there are now so many multiverse things, like the whole Marvel thing's a multiverse, and like
everything, everywhere, all at once.
Everywhere's a multiverse. And I went back to the cinema for the very first time. I don't have a lot of thoughts about this other than it was great, and I saw the new Spider-Man multiverse one, and it was great. I love the first one. I love the second one. Happy to see multiverse things in a cartoon because you can actually make all the different universes gel together and look different, but still gel together. But the idea of signing up to see another multiverse movie, even if it does have some of my favorite DC characters in it it's not as appealing as it would have been if you'd pitched me that idea 5 years ago, right?
Well, I actually think that it hinders the story a lot more. They have to have it because they have to bring in Michael Keaton. But if they had somehow like tunnel visioned it on, he's just in one reality and it's the Tim Burton Batman and focused on that, then I think you would have got everything that we wanted from the film, which is that nostalgia hit, but a much more coherent storyline. Because it starts in.
But I think they were hoping that, like, Christian Bale, like they might be like Spider-Man, and they not just get Keaton, they get Christian Bale and whatever, and you're like, you were never going to get Christian Bale. Like he was. Can you imagine Christian Bale going, "I'm up for this"?
20 years until Birdman. He's keen to make some hay while the sun's shining. But Christian Bale is sort of still, contact him in another 20 years. Let's see how his career's doing then. But yeah, so it starts in the Snyderverse, and so you've got your Wonder Woman cameo and your Ben Affleck cameo and all this kind of stuff. And I'm so glad just to see the end at the back of that universe. Like Gal Gadot too. Ever since that COVID video, I just
instantly ruined.
I find it unbearable to watch. I just can't stand her.
How did it? It was like it unlocked a spell she had on all of us, because I thought she was amazing. Like, such a beautiful woman, funny, but good in all the parts she was playing. Like, I just thought, here's somebody that I'm just going to enjoy watching for the next 10 or 15 years in these sort of movies. And then one misguided video, and I'm like, I am off you forever.
No, it really is. I have that same feeling too. Like, I just am like, you pompous, pretentious, out of touch, disconnected.
Even though it was her trying to do something nice, even in retrospect, none of us knew what was happening, and she was just trying to do something, right? Like, yes, in retrospect, it was naive and misguided, but a lot of us did things that were naive and misguided during that time, because the whole world, and none of us knew that it was going to be what it was and all these sort of things. And so she at least went to the effort of guilting a whole bunch of her friends into doing something, and it's turned me off her forever.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? But it's also corrupted like the Wonder Woman character, like her as Wonder Woman. Because I see Wonder Woman, I'm like, shut up.
Shut up, Wonder Woman.
Who do you think you are? No one needs to look at you and your bloody Amazon lifestyle. You've got so much. And you're trying to tell us to bloody sing some John Lennon. Shut up.
Yeah, your superpowers, your invisible jets, private jets spewing carbon into the...
And she's even done like self-effacing interviews about that. Of course. I got it wrong. But even though I read that, I'm like, shut up.
Shut up, you.
Like, she just can't dig herself out of that hole.
She's done basically nothing wrong in the context of things that we don't cancel people for. I mean, the fact that they've released this movie with Ezra Miller as the lead, and the person who's really bothering us is like
Gal Gadot.
Gal Gadot, who just tried to do something nice, if a bit misguided.
So that's where it starts. And like, Ben Affleck's an interesting one too, isn't it? Because like 3-4 years ago, you were like, oh, he is so regrets this decision. He just wants out. Look at, he's so dead in the eyes. But maybe since J-Lo, he's not taking life. Like, he seems to be having fun with it. He's done a couple cameos as Batman now, and he seems to be like enjoying himself. But that part gets pushed aside, and then obviously the time travel stuff begins. Now, here's what I'll say. I actually quite enjoyed all the kind of like twists and turns, and it's nothing new, but it's entertaining. The Michael Keaton cameo, though, or not, it's not a cameo, it's bigger than a cameo.
Right. He's partly in the movie as one of the plots.
Yeah,
or
he's the
right?
mentor-y, like he's the Obi-Wan type character, the old wizard that they go find, and but it sort of highlights in a movie with like, you got the Supergirl, Zod, and the Flash. It just really highlights, because we haven't really seen, I guess we have in the first Justice League film, but Batman, in the context of a superpowered fight, is completely fucking useless. Just stay at home, like strategize from back at the Batcave. Just we'll all be on comms. You don't need to be out there in your little jet, like the jet that half these people can run faster than or fly faster than themselves. There's a scene where he flies the Flash, an alternate Flash, to this battle zone in his plane. And I'm like, you could get there in 2 seconds with the Flashes. Like, they could sprint across oceans and get there. You just stay home, old man. Like, this is pointless.
I mean, I do like that because Batman, it is that thing of like, you're kind of in the way, man. You're not helping. Yeah. You're actually making this harder for us because you're.
It would be like if your team's mascot tried to line up at full forward. You'd be like, look, we appreciate the enthusiasm. It's great. And we really need you to cheer us on, but get off the fucking
Well,
field.
no, but I mean, I don't think you even have to go that ridiculous. It's like if the team's coach tried to play, right? Because that's all Batman should be. He should just be the older coach. He's the coach. Like, he's got the strategy. Like, these are all young, powerful people who need to actually be taught to work, together with each other. And like Batman can do that. Like, can coordinate stuff and help a little bit. But like, you don't want to see your coach like running out into the middle of the field and go and give me the ball.
What you become acutely aware of in this film is because when you think about the Burton Batmans, like Bruce Wayne / Batman is almost like a secondary character. It's almost really the Joker's story, the first film. And then you've got two villains in the second one, and he's almost playing a support role. So when you sort of see him characterized, it's like, if you had to sum up Michael Keaton's Batman / Bruce Wayne, like what are some characteristics? Don't say he likes bats.
Well, I mean, he was played as a bit of a playboy, but like daft, like a bit kind of eccentric, like, know.
I guess so.
So he was slightly mad, like, slightly kind of, there was a, I mean, that's also Michael Keaton a bit in everything that he does, but
that's true.
Hard to differentiate those two from each other. I mean, he's not the, like the super athletic Batman. It's more about the gadget.
Well, can't even turn his neck.
Right. Definitely a lot more gadgets. I don't know. Like, I mean, there was a playboy element, definitely.
Well, that's it, right? There's not much. Like, if you think about Christian Bale's characterization, and they go a lot further into his psychology, and that he traumatized by the death of his parents, but
fallen
at the same
down
time,
a well full of bats, went and trained,
picked himself back up, longs for a relationship with his friend Rachel, but feels his duty bound to save the city that his father championed, all this kind of stuff. So when Michael Keaton comes in, it's like, oh, it's Michael Keaton, but kind of like you said, it's Michael Keaton. It's not, oh, there's Bruce Wayne from 1989. It's like, oh, there's Michael Keaton, and he's got a pretty fancy wig on and stuff. And I didn't think of it until you just mentioned it, but they do introduce him in a way that is kind of kooky, like a crazy kind of kooky Shutaway type thing. And I'm like, all right, so that's kind of consistent. But then for the rest of the film, he's kind of like wisecracking. And I don't remember that from 89, that he was like he kind of had like a dry wit and, a bit sarcastic at times.
I mean, dry and sarcastic a bit, but it wasn't like zingers. But like the older he's got, I mean, this might be a bit of like, and it's also a bit of, and dad humor. Like, he's every bloke as they get older, leans into the dad jokes, and he's probably, as his body's slowed down, he's probably relying on the wisecracks a little more.
Well, they sort of like trying to set up this, like, it's weird. It's almost like Indiana Jones and Short Round kind of, what do you call it? Like authority figure, parental figure with the Flash. Like he's a father figure to the Flash. But I don't know, like it just comes across a bit mawkish and corny when he's calling him kid and stuff. Like it just, because we never saw Batman with a Robin. He was a loner in the 89. It feels a bit forced, like they're trying to sort of, like, I don't know, is
almost as if that they are forcing it and have probably not even gone back and watched the original Keaton movies before they just slapped all this together.
Well, seeing him in daylight is another weird thing, because Tim Burton, all those sequences were shot at night, so you're sort of seeing Michael Keaton, and you see his wrinkly little face in the mask, and it's cute. Like, it's like, oh yeah. I mean, he's just a little wrinkly little man inside that suit. I don't think he's intimidating many people without the element of surprise. But But then they bring back obviously Zod, Michael Shannon,
Mhm.
and I don't know if is there a term that is to the right of phoned it in?
Mhm.
Like, is there a more extreme
Gifted in.
gifted it in?
Yeah, GIF, like as in like literally, he's
Oh,
just sent a
he's
GIF.
he's just a GIF.
Like, just like in response, if someone like I was going to say texted it in or like messaged it in, but I think even like less than that is if somebody, sends you a big message like, "Hey, do you want to come to this thing tomorrow?" And then in return, you just send them a GIF. I feel like is it that, or is it even just thumbs up?
It's not even that. Like, he seems so upset
Oh,
to be there,
against his
like
will, resentful.
yeah, that's what That's what it's like a hostage video.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like. I
Okay.
mean, who even knows if he was? They could have just like
Mm.
shot him. He could have filmed it on his phone, and then they just put his face on some 3D model or something. Because they weirdly keep his face concealed.
Literally phoned it in.
Yeah, that's to the right. They phoned it in.
Yeah, literally
phoned
phoning it in. He filmed it on his phone and then just sent it in.
Because they sort of keep him in full Zod.
Uh-huh.
Like, they have those weird kind of
Sure.
translucent masks. They keep him behind one of those.
That's weird.
And you don't ever really get any extended dialogue scenes with him. He's just kind of like, who's that over there?
Okay.
And then there's these action fight scenes. But part of me was like, well, were you contractually bound to do this? Or did you take a paycheck? And if it's a paycheck, like, why are you so glum? Like, was the money not enough? And did your agent trick you into getting this job? Like, surely you can muster up just a bit of enthusiasm.
It's one of those things, isn't it? Like that if you are getting paid, if you're doing something for a paycheck, you might as well earn your paycheck. It's a bit rude to then go in and be
100%.
resentful about the paycheck.
Yeah, if you weren't getting paid, I could understand being glum. But I imagine he was paid.
Maybe he did a deal for the first movie after he saw the script, and they said, "Look, we can pay you like over 2 movies. We'll pay you like the same amount for 2 movies, or we can give you an absolute huge amount of money right for the first one." But for the second one, you won't really get that much. And he's like, I'm never going to make another one of these. It's like, I thought this is a great deal. You know what I mean? Like, let's make this deal. And then suddenly, Michael, get your iPhone out, mate.
That would make total sense.
Yeah.
So he's in it and he seems really, really upset. And then they do this, and this is a big spoiler. Look, it's not a big plot spoiler, but it's a big reveal spoiler. So if anyone wants to save themselves, turn off now or skip ahead. They have a moment in which Barry is seeing the full multiverse in effect, and so he's basically looking around at all these portals to different, essentially Warner Brothers properties. So there's Adam West's Batman.
Okay, yeah.
There's Christopher Reeve and Helen Slater as Superman and Supergirl. There's George Reeves Superman, which is a bit sort of distasteful because I believe he killed himself because he hated being typecast as Superman
well,
so
we
badly.
can fix that history. Don't worry about that. That's fine. We'll whack you in our movie
forever.
Yeah. Don't worry. There's nothing problematic about this movie in any way. So we'll just jam you in this.
Well, I guess when you got that guy as your lead, if you've opened the door to problematic, let's just do a bunch of immoral shit.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's just revive.
What else do we want to put in
actors
here?
against
Louis
them.
C.K.'s in there. Woody Allen's in there. Chris D'Elia, for some reason, is in there.
So but the thing about this, and because I've heard a few pods. I know James on the Weekly Planet fucking hated this moment, and I didn't hate it, but I felt like they didn't have the balls to fulfill the premise. If they're saying, "Oh, how cool is this little in joke?" Like you're looking into, because this is how far they go with the in joke. So you're seeing all these different Warner Brothers DC properties that have been filmed previously, TV or film. They don't show the TV flash, which I thought. I mean that's a fucking
the
obvious one.
I can't believe the TV flash is not in this movie.
Yeah, not at all. Not mentioned. It doesn't exist.
That is the most obvious one that in this movie you've got to have a moment where you get the TV flash. Surely
They don't have the TV flash. They also don't have Green Lantern. Like at one stage, I see this big sort of green orb portal opening, and I'm like, oh, this will be hilarious. They've got Ryan Reynolds back. Ryan Reynolds seems like the kind of guy who would think, oh,
Who
yeah,
would
this is
do
funny.
anything?
Yeah. Except appear in a Gal Gadot video. And for that, I respect him and I hate her.
I mean, he must be Marvel contracted at the moment, though, wouldn't he be, Ryan Reynolds? Like, I can't imagine that he would be able to. Although Ryan Reynolds is so big now and so
He could write
powerful
his
that you
own
can
ticket.
imagine that he would probably just be able to do whatever he wanted.
Yeah.
So you've got it.
But to not even reference it, you know, like I think because they go so deep with this like sequence that so you know the story of Kevin Smith wrote that he tells that story about pitching the Superman film to John Peters, and he wants a giant mechanical spider in it, and then
Later
they
ends
cast
up
Nicolas
in
Cage.
Wild Wild West.
That's right. So and Nicolas Cage was going to play Superman at one point, directed by Tim Burton. So it is
Does
one of
Nicolas
these
Cage like Superman?
Yes, there's
Oh.
an Elseworld where you see Nicolas Cage as Tim Burton's Superman fighting a giant mechanical spider. But get this, it's not like real now Nicolas Cage, you know, and the de-aged him. They just fucking created a completely 3D, like Polar Express, creepy, uncanny valley as fuck Nicolas Cage.
They couldn't get Nicolas Cage.
I mean, who can't get Nicolas Cage? He'll do anything.
more available.
Except a Gal Gadot video. And for that, I respect him and I hate her.
I mean, I think if Nicolas Cage had done that Imagine video, we all would have loved it.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
Loved it. Yeah,
Imagine.
Keanu.
There's no heaven.
There's no heaven up there. It's easy if you try.
Like, again, it's winning me back, even to Gal Gadot. I find that amazing because didn't he name his kid like after? Isn't his kid named like Jor-El or Kal-El or something?
Yeah, but I heard him interviewed, and I believe it's actually I think it's it's an Israeli name or something like that. It has origins beyond comic books,
but was also because of the comic books, right?
Yeah,
like,
I think so. He's a big comic book fan. Yeah, so they do this big moment, and I think it's just such a missed opportunity. Like, but this is what I mean about the film is just filled with all these kind of like ideas, which some work and some don't, but there's no cohesiveness to it. And the whole thing feels like a very desperate attempt to distract us from the fact that their leading man is problematic and this universe, this extended universe is dying.
Well, the fact that they've essentially made an announcement before the film comes out that says, you know what, there's no real stakes in any of this.
Yeah,
don't pay
don't
too
watch
much
this.
attention and worry too much about this because we're starting again fresh. Okay, this is not starting again fresh, but let me riddle you this. Picture me this. Do you think, so James Gunn, you know, taking over the universe there, could you make in this day and age, now that he is in the position he is in the entertainment industry, we're used to him playing, you know, comic book characters now. He's had great success doing it. Could there be a Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie, like a sequel or another movie? Could you make a good Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie now? Because the idea itself isn't a bad idea, right? And Ryan Reynolds would be an okay.
But we're using like a completely new property, or are we going back to the Ryan Reynolds verse?
Well, I mean, I just mean it's almost like in the same way, like a reboot,
like he did with Suicide Squad.
Yeah, exactly,
So
right.
he's back as Hal Jordan, but we're starting again.
Same, and keep some of the same actors, keep some of the same characters, but we're just having a fresh go at it. Here's our second crack at doing this properly this time.
Well, I think if any director could do it, he seems to have a handle on that because it's a cosmic comic, right? Like it's outer space and fantasy. And so he's done that with Guardians of the Galaxy. So yeah, I mean, I think that very much is in his wheelhouse. I think they're doing a Green Lantern Corps TV show. I think that's one of the things they've announced. I don't know how hands-on he'll be with that, but I just think that the Green Lantern, it just falls down around his power. So what's the idea that he can create like holographic solid holograms thinks of?
Yeah.
Like
well, he has a ring, doesn't he? Isn't there a ring that he
There's a ring, but wouldn't I think that If that was me, it would just
Hmm.
be like a giant shield or a giant brick. Every situation can be fixed. You know what I mean? Like, why would I go to the lengths of imagining
Hmm.
a Formula One race car running around like a track or some complex Gatling gun? I'll just like, there's a bad guy, giant brick.
Because
There's a bad guy trying to hurt me, giant shield.
yeah, but I think this is why Ryan Reynolds would actually be good in the part, because you lean into the ridiculous nature of him. Like, yes, of course. Like, and you almost like.
Is it more comedy focused? You're saying?
Well,
your
I think
reboot?
you could lean into the comedy. Like, everyone's used
Yeah.
to seeing him play. What's his face now?
Deadpool.
So I think people kind of like. I think you could lean into. I mean, not make it a knockoff, of that, but I like the idea that. Yeah, I reckon he could do it. Like, I mean, I just like the idea of James Gunn going back to this. Would be the ultimate, like, James Gunn sort of like, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna
Yeah.
fucking make a good Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie.
I just don't know. Yeah, if the premise would work.
Why is that where you draw your line in the ridiculous world of superheroes? That hologram objects
I
is
don't
where
know,
you draw
because
the
his
line.
weakness is like yellow.
Yellow,
And
yeah.
I'm like, so if I piss on the Green Lantern,
Yeah, well, that's
can I
one of the
defeat it?
scenes. This is, and then also we get Coldplay in to sing the song "Yellow." That's a funny bit we do. Big Bird, he loses a fight to Big Bird at one stage. That's a good
Yeah,
bit.
great. I love it.
The Yellow and Eminem kicks his ass.
To see the full video, join our Patreon.
Patreon.com/Tofop.